Good evening. Welcome to the Yorktown Central School District Board of Education meeting for January 22nd, 2024. And have a motion to go into executive session to discuss the employment history of particular pedagogical and non-pedagogical employees and matters made confidential under federal law, the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Can I have a motion to go back into public session?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good evening. Welcome to the Yorktown Central School District Board of Education meeting for January 22nd, 2024. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence for our armed forces and those in our community who have lost loved ones, especially the mother of Caitlin Gaeta, the mother of Adrian Cusano, the father of Joanne Brancotti, the father of Daryl Nansen, the father-in-law of Lisa Morella Nansen, and the grandparent of Rebecca Batondo.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. We're sorry we were out a little bit late. We had a few things to take care of. Yvette, we're going to do public comment. Did anybody sign up? No? Okay, Ron, I'm going to turn it over to you. I know we have BOCES here for a special night.
Yes, we do. We have a very special recognition this evening of a Yorktown student attending the PNW BOCES program. And this evening we'll be honoring Matthew Yee for being recognized as the Student of Distinction. Matthew this evening is joined by his brother Darren. I see Darren in the audience. Mom Debbie and Father Tony. So welcome. It's great to have you here this evening. We are pleased to be joined by our friends from PNW BOCES. So at this time I'd like to introduce Dr. Lynn Allen to the podium to present the award.
Thank you, Dr. Hatter, and good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Lynn Allen. I'm Deputy Superintendent at Putnam Northern Westchester BOCES, and as one of our treasured 18 component school districts, it's always wonderful to return to Yorktown and have the opportunity to convey how much we appreciate your ongoing support and partnership in all things, but most importantly, the support of our amazing shared students. On behalf of Neil Boyle, our district superintendent, and our BOCES board, one of the members who is here tonight, Dr. James Ryan, board trustee, I would like to sincerely thank the Yorktown Board of Education, Superintendent Hatter, and the Yorktown Cabinet for providing us with time tonight to celebrate our outstanding student of distinction. At this time, it is my great pleasure to introduce Preeti Day, Executive Principal from our Career and Technical Education Center, who will do the honors of recognizing our very special student of distinction. Thank you.
Good evening, President and members of the Yorktown Board of Education, Superintendent, administrators, teachers, parents, and students. As the Executive Principal, today I have the honor on behalf of the CTE and Tech Center at PNW BOCES to honor our student of distinction from Yorktown High School. I'm going to call on Matthew E. Matthew? Matthew is a senior at Yorktown High School and attends the Animation and Motion Graphics program at our Tech Center. Matthew's passion for animation is unmistakable, and his commitment to his craft is commendable. According to his animation and motion graphics teacher, Ms. Noelle Harrison, who unfortunately cannot be here today because she's looking after 2 little kids at home. He has a strong work ethic, pays incredible attention to detail, and has a deep appreciation for the school environment, which undoubtedly contributed to his growth as an artist. According to Ms. Harrison, Matthew excels in all areas of animation, but he shows exceptional skill and understanding of creating strong motion graphics using software such as Adobe After Effects and CC Animate. Don't ask me what they are. I have no idea. Matthew looks forward to advancing his skills in college by making connections with fellow artists and professors. He has worked hard to develop a strong animation portfolio with which he has applied to several colleges such as Alfred State, Fashion Institute of Technology, Pratt Institute, and the School of Visual Arts. While he awaits for all these college decisions, we are very, very happy to hear that he has already been accepted to Alfred State University. In addition to his animation interests, Matthew also serves as the chief editor of his school's Soupstone Club, which organizes various art-related events throughout the school year and produces an impressive art and literary magazine featuring the creative works of fellow students. Matthew's leadership and organizational skills have been very pivotal in the success of this endeavor. A member of his school's volleyball team. Wow, I did not know you played sports as well. Matthew is able to balance academics, extracurricular activities, and sport, demonstrating excellent time management and teamwork skills. A stellar student, Matthew is a member of the National Honor Society at Yorktown High School. He participates in his school's Big Buddies program, where he mentors incoming freshmen, providing them with guidance and support to help them succeed in their first year of high school. What an exceptional student we have from Yorktown, and we have many others as well, but he was truly exceptional. With this exceptional talent and academic achievements and teamwork, Matthew is our perfect choice for Student of Distinction from Yorktown High School. Congratulations, Matthew. At this time, I'd ask Dr. Hatara and Dr. Ryan if you could present the awards.
This is the Student of Distinction for January 2024, certificate awarded to Matthew Yee in recognition for his outstanding leadership, skills, academic progress, and community spirit. Matthew, congratulations.
Thank you.
We'll take more photos out in the hallway. How's that? Thank you, Dr. Hess. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Dr. Hatter, are we going to be able to see some of Matthew's work?
Matthew, we're going to have to see some of the artwork that you did.
Thank you.
And I'll share it.
Thank you.
His fees will be attached. Have a good evening. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Okay, so the next portion of the superintendent's report is a presentation on the capital bond project that is being considered, up for vote February 13th. That's a Tuesday. And to deliver this presentation, I will make my way to the podium. And when we get to the financials, I'll introduce Jason Schwartz from Bernard P. Donegan, our fiscal advisors. And Jason will be able to provide the specifics on the financials and answer any questions that we may have. So I'll make my way to the podium at this time. Okay, so we're using the Board of Education meetings as an opportunity to continue to spread the message on the bond, to share with our community some of the design, aspects of the design, the information about the vote, all of the information about the financials. We are holding a series of community informational sessions online, in person, weekdays, weeknights, mornings, evenings, just to give as many opportunities as possible for our community to hear as much information, ask questions, have their questions, concerns addressed, and to have their perspective shared. With regard to this evening's presentation, I'll go through these 6 items, which I won't read to you, but we'll go through these 6 items, and specifically we'll spend some time talking about the scope of the bond project. So with regard to the current needs in each of our elementary schools, the needs are similar, and the needs center around having very little space available for instruction, whether it's small group, special education, or general education instruction. We are currently working in classrooms that look like this. They're undersized. In some cases, they're in hallways. In fact, at the top of the screen, third picture from the left, you see a beautiful stage at Mohansick School. That's where music is housed, but on the other side of that curtain, there are about 75 to 100 children having lunch. And our teachers do a great job of making these conditions work, and we commend them for their professionalism, their commitment to our students. But we certainly have to think, can we do better? And if we can do better, we ought to do better. And so, as we look at the middle school, there are similar circumstances, but rather than there being a restriction on space or limitation on space, the building's old. The building is dated. The building is in need of repair. And it's not a function of what hasn't been done and maintenance that's been missed. The building is old and it's showing its age. In terms of this space that we're in now, every child in the middle school, 800 children, come through this space every day. Can we make it more engaging, more inviting? Can we improve on the lighting in the room? Can we warm up the place a little bit so that our children can have this experience that's a little bit more receptive and welcoming to a space that they all visit every single day? The classrooms in the 100 and 200 wings of our building, which is the majority of our classrooms, have old and antiquated and in some cases non-functioning cabinetry in the classrooms. This proposal will address that, and I'll provide some specific detail around how we will address that. But a picture is often worth more than 1,000 words. Top left picture shows acoustic panels in a band room right down the hallway here. The pictures at the top middle show our home and careers room. And I think everyone in the community recognizes that I'm a big proponent of the latest and greatest technology. Engineering, drones, all of the 3D printing and coding should be celebrated. But I also think that we need a home and careers program as part of our middle school as well. I think there's a lot of value there in terms of what our children are learning and the skills that they come out being able to use. In order to continue with that program effectively, we need to provide a space commensurate with the good work happening within its walls. The bottom 2 pictures on the left show science classrooms. They don't all look like that. In fact, most don't. But the fact that at least one of our classrooms would look like that is something that we should address. And this bond will do that. With regard to the scope of Proposition 1, how will we address the needs within our buildings? Mohansick, Brookside, and Crampon would be addressed in a very similar way. 6 classroom additions on each of the 3 elementary schools with spaces that are dedicated to special education, small group instruction. We would also enhance some of the security measures that we have in each of those 3 buildings. To provide some additional context with regard to how the additions would be placed, this is a view of the Brookside School floor plan. What you can see on the right side For context, for those who are viewing this presentation at home, the main entrance is at the bottom center of that photo, of that diagram. The right side, there's a 4-classroom addition, and that's near the ball fields. And the top left of this image is in the back, near the back parking lot where the kindergarten wing is. For Mohansick School, we're proposing a 2-story addition with 3 classrooms on each story, so a total of 6 classrooms in the addition. And again, for context, the entrance is in the right diagram, the main entrance is in the right diagram, bottom center of that diagram. And during the actual presentations, I'm actually pointing to the main entrance to give everyone a frame of reference, but for the purpose of this presentation, if you look at the diagram on the right, bottom center is where the main entrance would be. At Crompond, we're proposing a 2-story addition with 3 classrooms on each story, so a total of 6 classrooms at Crompond. And again, for context, to the far right of the right diagram on the right would be the main entrance at the center. This is where, if you were to go down the hallway at Crompond, past the gymnasium, and make a left at that top story, that's where the addition would go. We would add on to the building off to the side. This is what I showed you just moments ago. This is what we're envisioning. And again, it's just a vision. It's a conceptual. It's a rendering. There will be 12 months of design that follow an approved bond, and 6 months of review with SED. So there's an 18-month design and review process. So if we're not happy with the shade of blue in the rendering, we can modify the color of the paint on the wall. If we're not happy with the rectangular lights in the ceiling, we can work with that as well. So we'll be meeting with faculty, staff, and also hearing student perspective as we go through this design process, because they're the people who live in the space all day, every day, and we look forward to hearing their advice and their guidance. A proposed classroom at Mohansick, again, beautiful, great lighting, great natural light, airy, engaging, warm, everything that an early elementary classroom should be. This is an example of a middle grade classroom at Brookside, so maybe 2nd or 3rd grade, an upper grade at Brookside, or at Mohansick for that matter. But again, bright, airy, engaging, inviting, different types of seating, different types of configurations of desks and tables. This is an example of what a classroom at Crompond can be. Now, this is the view from the windows into the classroom, so you don't see all the natural light on the other side of this image. But again, flexible seating, flexible configuration of desks and tables for student learning, and certainly bright, colorful, well-lit. The scope of the bond work in Proposition 1 at the middle school and high school is also extensive. There are renovations to many of the classrooms in the middle school, renovations, middle school and high school, to all art and music classrooms, and a renovation of the science research room to switch with robotics and receive an upgrade at the high school, that is. And all of the updates there you can read. I won't go through each item on the bulleted list, but it's all there for review, and I'll show you some images and some examples. So before we see those examples, the kind of macro view of this, the floor plan of the middle school, at the top of the screen, for those who are viewing this presentation at home, there are classrooms that are outlined in yellow. In those classrooms, there is, we can't call it a gut renovation. We're not going down and taking the walls down as well. But what we are doing is replacing the cabinetry, the hardware, the doors, the ceilings, the lights, and the flooring in each of those classrooms. So a complete refresh of those classes, making for really inviting, welcoming, bright, well-lit space for our students to learn in. At the bottom of the screen, in that more of a teal color on the computer screen, are the music wing to the bottom left. That's band, orchestra, chorus. Opposite that there's the home and careers room, and just above the home and careers room are the art classrooms in the middle school. Those will receive gut renovations and will be fully modified from their existing condition. And speaking of existing condition, this is one example of a science classroom here at Mildred E. Strang Middle School. And this is what we're envisioning can be. And again, the cabinetry, the table surfaces, that'll all go through the design process for the 12 months following the approval of the bond, should we get to that point. And this would just serve as a point of reference, a conceptual framework for where we are. This is the current home and careers room. This is what we're envisioning. There's a cooking center to the right, a textile sewing area to the left, and then right down the middle is a instructional space for students in the program. So the instructional space divides the cooking area from the sewing or textile area. At the high school, we're proposing renovations to music, science research, and art classrooms. The top right of the illustration, for those viewing at home, are the music wing, including practice rooms, as well as the science research room. And then the art rooms are to the left of the diagram toward the bottom. And again, those are full gut renovations of those spaces. This is a current band room here at the middle school. I wish it weren't the case, but it is. We can paint over those to make them more aesthetically pleasing, but then you lose all acoustical value, and now they're nothing more than wall art. This is what we're envisioning. A beautiful, well-lit space, inviting, engaging, acoustical panels along the wall and ceilings, plenty of storage for instruments, large group instructional space for an ensemble type of setting, small group instructional space off to the side. This is a proposal for the science research room. There's an instructional space here, and on the other side, there's more of a research space. Outside, we're proposing the addition of a turf field. So to give everyone a frame of reference, Yorktown High School, the building is outside of the view at the top of the screen. It's outside of the view of this picture. To the right is Mildred E. Strang Middle School. The turf field with track that's not highlighted is the existing turf field, just to give everyone watching a frame of reference. And adjacent to that is the proposed turf baseball field and multi-purpose field, which will be used predominantly for our field hockey girls program during the fall. The field is also lined, the multi-purpose field in the outfield is also lined for soccer and lacrosse, boys and girls soccer, boys and girls lacrosse, and certainly girls field hockey. You'll also notice that there's a removable outfield home run fence in baseball. Field hockey and baseball are played during opposite seasons, so field hockey is in the fall, the home run fence would be removed. Baseball is played in the spring, the removable fence would be reinstalled, and we can still hold games and practices. That field in Proposition 1 does not have lighting. However, we will plan with conduit in the event down the road we decide that lighting would be appropriate at some point. Then at least we would have the infrastructure in place to build off of that. We also have 2 pickleball/basketball courts, or dual purpose courts for pickleball and for basketball. And again, the purpose of these courts is really to assist with some of our PE classes, middle school, high school. It's to assist with recess at the middle school. And so is that turf field. That turf field has a lot of value when it comes to middle school recess. I think we all agree that children in a middle school should be outside for recess. They should get fresh air. They should be moving and outside enjoying recess. The reality is that after a substantial rainstorm, which we've had many in recent weeks, certainly many since the start of the school year, the fields are really not appropriate for play, or they're not prepared for play a day, 2, even 3 days after the heavy rain, because they don't drain very well and they're muddy. The children will go out there, they'll slip, they'll fall in the mud, and it's something that we've seen time and time again, and therefore outdoor recess is restricted, or that's one of the factors that restricts outdoor or limits outdoor recess. So having a turf field would certainly help in getting children to be outside more, because slipping in mud is not something that you're concerned about when it comes to having a turf field. With regard to the turf itself, I just want to speak to the safety of the infill that's being used. In many turf fields that were previously made, there's a crumb rubber, which is crushed tire rubber, used as the infill. We are not using that type of infill on our field. We're using a virgin rubber called EPDM rubber that has not been treated with chemicals. In fact, it passes the same safety testing that children's toys go through. And that's something that we're proud of. So it's more environmentally friendly. It will not leach into the soil, but also the standard of quality used for this infill, the EPDM rubber, is the same testing. It undergoes the same testing that children's toys undergo for safety. We heard from our community that there were still other needs. And the truth of the matter is there are other needs. In fact, everything that we just showed you in Proposition 1 totals about $46 million. 45,995, if we want to be more precise. That's all tax neutral. There's no impact on taxes as a result of Proposition 1. And Jason is here from Bernard P. Donegan. He'll share more about that a little later in this presentation. So we were able to prepare a bond that was tax neutral, but the truth is there were some really difficult decisions that the steering committee and that our district had to make, because some of the needs we identified exceeded that tax neutrality that we know the community desires. And so a second proposition was born based on the feedback that we received. In that proposition, there are 3 items that are on the screen here. One is the Mohansic cafeteria, the servery, and the kitchen area as well. Over the last 5 years, we've renovated the high school cafeteria, Brookside cafeteria, Crampon cafeteria, and Proposition 1 has the middle school cafeteria being renovated. Should Proposition 2 also be approved, we can proudly and confidently say that all of our cafeterias in the district, spaces that every child accesses every day, would all be renovated to a more child-friendly, child-centered structure. And when we talk about the servery right now, children have to exit the cafeteria to go on to the line at the servery. This configuration will avoid that. We'll keep children in the cafeteria, and they won't have to go outside into the hallway to go into a separate servery area. So there's a safety component, there's an efficiency here also. When we think about the 45 minutes that children really have for lunch, or 40 or 45 minutes for lunch, it's not a whole lot of time, so any efficiencies that we can recognize certainly are important. We're also looking at an emergency generator on the high school campus, which is also where our central offices are housed. And the reason why we're looking to put the generator on the high school campus is because much of our critical infrastructure is there. The large walk-in refrigerator is housed there. And what I think is important for our community to know is that during a power outage, any food that goes bad, as part of our contract with our food service provider, the district is responsible for replacing that food. So if we can have backup generators that would prevent food spoilage and prevent food loss, it would certainly serve as a benefit in so many regards, not just financially, obviously. You never want to waste food. In addition, our main IT servers are housed at the high school. Being able to keep our IT servers up has an impact on all of the other buildings. If the IT servers, our main IT servers go down, phone service goes down, as well as internet service and Wi-Fi on all of our campuses, not just at the high school. In fact, many in our community will remember that a few weeks ago I sent out a letter to the community indicating that NYSEG had to make an emergency repair resulting from the December 18th storm. And what I shared with the community is that we would have to go offline, no power, at the high school campus, and as a result of no power on the high school campus, there would be no phone access from the hours of 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. at any of our schools. That's the peak of dismissal time in our elementary schools. And I can't help but think, had we had that generator, the phones would not have gone down. We would have been able to maintain that communication and that access. And that's just one example of the importance of being able to keep our critical infrastructure operational during a power outage. And unfortunately, power outages have not decreased in frequency. They've only increased. Finally, the athletic complex at Yorktown High School. I showed you the Proposition 1 field addition. This is the Proposition 2 proposal. With Proposition 2, a couple of things that are worth pointing out. The field in Proposition 1 had to be shrunk a little bit in order for the additional turf field at the top of the screen to fit. So the orientation hasn't changed. So Yorktown High School is still out of view at the top of the screen. The middle school is on the right side of the screen that is in view. The field, baseball field and multi-purpose field for field hockey is still there at the bottom of the screen, but the dimension has been shrunk down slightly. That will no longer house boys and girls lacrosse. Sure, a practice can be held there, but it's not going to be built for a game situation, but it will be lined for field hockey and boys and girls soccer. That allows for the addition of a full-size turf field just north of that on the campus, and that will be lined for all sports, including football, and that will have lighting on that field as well as bleachers for 250 to 300 people. The call-out in that diagram is the concession field house that will have bathrooms, it will have a concession stand, and an outdoor patio dining area for students and families and members of the community. Just a couple of things to point out, because quite often athletics are viewed as the beneficiary, but there are more beneficiaries than just the athletic program. I believe that there's a direct benefit to our middle school, a direct benefit to our physical education classes, and also a direct benefit to academics, because it's not uncommon during the spring. It's not every day, but it's not uncommon that a practice on the turf field will go until about 10 p.m. You'll have the 2:30 to 4:30, the 4:30 to 6, the 6 to 8, and possibly an 8 to 10. It's not something we're happy about. It's not something that we enjoy, but it's a reality of having one turf field with many athletic teams vying to get time onto that field. By having 3 athletic fields going at the same time, my hope is that we can conclude practices for all students at a reasonable time. I don't want to put a number on it yet, but if we can complete practices around 6 p.m., we can get the children home at a reasonable hour. And I believe that there's the academic benefit there to not having a child out here practicing until 9 or 10 p.m. in the evening, with first period starting at 7:30 the following morning. So I just touch upon those points. Those have been conversations that have been had during the previous information sessions with the community, and I think those are important points to continue to make. With regard to green considerations are important to us. It's something that we're certainly cognizant of. The slide here shares some of the things that we're thinking are reasonable and possible for us to accomplish in this bond proposal. And certainly the considerations will continue as we go through the design and review process. From a timeline standpoint, the vote is February 13th, Tuesday. Should the propositions be approved, and we'll talk about the propositions being approved at the end of the presentation, and Prop 1 and Prop 2. Prop 2 can only be considered if Proposition 1 passes. So we'll talk about that at the end of the presentation, but assuming Propositions 1 and 2, or 1 and or 2, 1 passes or 1 and 2 pass, there's a 12-month design period that we're going to enter. 6 months of review at SED, and then you go through the bid process, and we anticipate a June 2025 construction start date with a 5-year duration from that point. So the 5 years, I've received questions during some of the informational sessions, why 5 years? It seems like it's a long time out, and there are a few factors to consider. The first is much of this construction work is invasive in the schools. And during 10 months of the year, schools are occupied, classes in session. We have children here learning, teachers here teaching. So for example, at the middle school, we're clearing out all the cabinetry, the doors, the ceilings, the lights, the floors. That's big construction work. We can't ask a construction company to work evenings and then ready the classrooms for student arrival at 8 o'clock the next morning. So that's where the summer months come into play. There are some projects that we can move along a little quicker. Some of the outdoor projects, some of the constructions of the elementary schools with the tie-in work occurring during the summer, but the construction of the additions happening during the school year. So that's one consideration. We're a school. We have children here. We have teachers here. The other part is the borrowing schedule and trying to borrow monies in a way that keep the project, certainly Prop 1, tax neutral. And then the other consideration is how much work can any construction company really do in any year? We can't do $50 million of work in a year. I don't know many companies that can do that type of construction work on a public school campus in that amount of time. So the project will take some time for all of those factors that I referenced. In terms of the prioritization of the projects, that's something that we continue to discuss and we continue to review. Certainly the enrollment is the most pressing concern that we have and most pressing matter that we have to address. So we're certainly cognizant of the additions at Brookside, Mohansick, and Crampon for the reasons that were articulated in the pictures that I shared with you. Music needs to come off of a stage and go into a classroom. There are enrollment demands that we're experiencing. There are student needs that we have to be ready to address and be prepared to instruct. And we need the space to do it. So that's where the elementary additions reside. With regard to the financials, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Jason Schwartz from Bernard P. Donegan. This is Proposition 1, Proposition 2, itemized breakdown by building and even by category of design. And so, Jason, I will turn it over to you. I can start you on this slide if that's okay. Great.
Thank you. All right. Good evening, everybody. Good to see you all again. As Dr. Hatter was mentioning, we have the breakdown of the financials here that we'll go through for the different propositions. So, like he was mentioning, he kind of went through the costs. We have Proposition 1 that's roughly $46 million, and then Proposition 2 that's roughly $10 million. So this is a visual representation of Proposition 1 and how that plays in. So what you'll see here, the blue bars at the beginning, kind of on the left-hand side of the chart, that's your existing local share from all your prior projects. And what we have happening is over the next couple of years, a lot of that is going to be retiring and falling off the books. So it's a very good opportune time when you have all these needs that were just gone through in the earlier part of the presentation to be able to accomplish those and kind of mesh that in with that retiring debt service in order to be able to do and accomplish all that work with no increase to the taxes, kind of just maintaining your current budget process. So that's what you'll see there. That black line going across the page is what's in your current budget as far as the local share of capital projects. And you can see as those green bars layer in for Proposition 1, that's able to stay at or below that level, so therefore no tax increase. It's a tax neutral project for Proposition 1. And that also, you see as those bars fall off, that's to Dr. Hatter's point a few minutes ago about why we have to structure the projects over that timeline, is so that we can have the debt coming on as pieces of the prior debt fall off. It's not kind of one clean fall off, it's falling off over time. So that's where we're dovetailing that. So, there can be some changing on the schedule of what goes where, but we can't have all of it shift up to year one. We have to make sure that we're kind of, spreading it out over that time so that we can have that all fit in how we'd like to have it matched together to keep this picture of a tax neutral project. So then the next slide here shows what happens if both Proposition 1 and Proposition 2 were to pass. So as you saw in the prior slide, Proposition 1 would be able to maintain tax neutrality, but would go right up to that line. So then Proposition 2, if that were to pass, would be above and beyond kind of what's currently in the budget as far as local share of a capital project. So that's where you can see those pink bars coming on top there. So then naturally what we kind of look at from there is, this doesn't really tell you a lot for like the average homeowner, right? We kind of can see, the total dollars or anything like that. But naturally you'd like to know, what does this mean to me as an average resident in Yorktown Central School District? So that's what we have shown here is just a chart, what we call the house page. So this kind of shows you the impacts of the Proposition 2 if it were to pass. So it gives you a range of options here. We've boxed in the $525,000 equalized value house as kind of like the average home value in the community. So you can see going across the page there, depending on what level of exemption you have, somewhere around $78 for the average homeowner with the star exemption per year for Proposition 2 if it were to pass. And you can see as you go up or down the page there, or across the page for the different exemption levels, it gives you a good range in terms of what that additional cost could be for you. So that kind of covers at a very high level the financials. Any other questions on that?
Everybody's good? Have you heard any questions from the community, Ron, and people are asking?
I think what we heard and what preceded my request to have Jason here was just a little uncertainty as to the impact on the home at the average assessed value in town. And so we wanted to make sure that we had Jason here to be able to address any questions that the community had, any questions that the board had, because in no uncertain terms what Jason has shared with us is that the home that's assessed at the average assessed value in town, which is $10,150, with the star exemption would experience approximately a $78 annual increase, which equates to about $6.50 per month. And then again, a home, that's not suggesting that the person's taxes are $10,150, but an assessment at $10,150 would result in an annual increase with the star exemption of $78. Jason, is that accurate? Okay, so that has been the question that I've heard is what really is the impact on a taxpayer, and I think this slide summarizes the impact perfectly, and it's important to note that Proposition 1 does not have a slide like this, because what we're telling the community is that Proposition 1 has no additional tax impact. So theoretically, if we were to make a slide like this for Proposition 1, it would be all zeros in the columns.
Jason, what's the length of the bonds that we're looking at? Is it 15 year? Is that our estimate, or 20? What do we do?
We were showing for 20 years because that's the anticipated state aid payback period. Okay. So it's most reconstruction projects would be 15, but because you have some additions here, when you have a project with those combined, we're looking at 20 years for some of the aid. So it'll kind of essentially align with how the aid payback structures go. Right. But we'll somewhere in that 20-year ballpark is the current estimation. Prop 1 is 20 years. Prop 2, I believe, was shorter because it was only reconstruction work. So you can see that's why the red bars on Prop 2 stopped sooner than the green bars on Prop 1.
So the state has different payback schedules depending on the types of projects, because we've only done renovations for the last 20 years. So now, because they're new additions, it is a longer payback period.
Right. So if you have renovations, that's 15. A brand new build, if it's just like a new building, that's 30. And then when you have a combination of addition and renovation, and the addition is more of the cost, it can go 20. So you're going to have a blend with this project because some of the buildings will get 20-year paybacks, some of them may have 15-year paybacks, but we'll align the bonds to kind of match up with how the aid's flowing in.
State doesn't make it easy, do they?
No, they certainly don't. It's always changing. I think one other just important point real quick too on the impact in the House page, because it wasn't in the presentation tonight, but it's in kind of the more detailed analysis we've done with Lisa. We're assuming bond rates, a note rate of 5% and a bond rate of 6%. If you were issuing debt today in today's market, you're probably closer to like 3.5% or 4%. So we've got a conservative rate in there. So these are hopefully kind of worst case projections for you. there's even been some talk about rate cuts by the Fed, so maybe that even comes back a little. But we want to be conservative because we're talking about bonds, being issued 3, 4, 5 years out from now, and those rates can move. So we have that cushion built in there, but hopefully, we can ultimately achieve better rates when it's time to issue that debt.
So technically, if we had better rates, some of the payback means there could be some decreases
Mhm.
in that.
Yeah, you would have some savings, less interest expense.
Okay, all right. Anybody have any more questions? Any questions of Ron? Jason, thank you for coming out tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Jason. So the final slide is just a summary, but there's a very, very important question that has come up in each of the community informational sessions that we've done. And the question is, do I have to vote for both propositions? If I vote yes for Proposition 2, does that not imply a yes vote for Proposition 1? That question has come up, I would say, from 5 different residents across multiple presentations that we've delivered. So I just want to very clearly share with the community that on the ballot on February 13th, there will be 2 propositions. Proposition 1, that's the tax neutral proposition. Somebody would vote yes or no on Proposition 1, and then on that same ballot, one would cast a vote for Proposition 2, a separate vote for Proposition 2. So we would expect that someone would vote on both propositions. Proposition 2 can only be considered if Proposition 1 passes. So voting for Proposition 2, to answer the question that's come up in the information sessions, without voting for Proposition 1 actually may jeopardize both propositions. So I just wanted to clearly convey that voting for Proposition 2 does not imply your vote for Proposition 1. You would have to cast your vote for 1 and a vote for 2. Should Proposition 1 pass, we would look at Proposition 2, and if that passes, then both propositions move forward. Should Proposition 1 pass and Proposition 2 fail, just Proposition 1 would move forward. If Proposition 1 fails, we don't even look at Proposition 2. And one of the comments that I've made during one of the information sessions is Proposition 1 has our needs. We need Proposition 1 to continue to open the doors and to continue to provide a high-quality education that's become synonymous with our district. Proposition 2 is terrific. We've heard from the community, but we're not going to build another turf field if we don't have classrooms to service the needs of our children in our elementary schools. Proposition 1 has to pass before we can consider Proposition 2. And I just wanted to make sure that that was clear, because the number of questions that I've received on the mechanics of the vote has been something that now I've made it a point to make sure that I really emphasize the point that it's 2 separate votes that someone is casting on the same ballot, on the same day, when you're in the voting booth, on the same day, same ballot, but it's 2 separate votes. I just wanted to make sure that I clearly conveyed that. That's the extent of the presentation. Happy to answer any questions. I know you've all seen this now
A few times.
1,000 times, so I don't know if there are any additional questions. And many of you on the steering committee have constructed this plan, and we've been on the committee together to construct this plan. So I'm standing up here giving the presentation, but truth be told, it's been the steering committee that has invested a whole lot of time in getting this project prepared to a vote. So I don't anticipate there are any questions, because you have written this presentation just as much as I have. So if there are any that have emerged, or any that you've heard from members in the community, I'm happy to try to address those.
Go ahead.
So, Jason, just so, if I'm looking at the schedule on Proposition 2 correctly, I mean, even if I'm at the top end of this chart and I'm not getting any star, we're talking about kind of on the outside, not even $10 a month difference. Is that correct? I know we're focused on the middle and the, the $650 a month, but if anybody's on the far end, I mean, we're talking kind of max is about $10, right? Yeah.
You gotta talk on the microphone. Sorry.
Yes, I was just saying that's correct. Anything that's on, if your house value is on this chart, then the impact of Proposition 2 would be $10 or less per month.
Thank you.
Okay. So the only other thing we can say is please come out and vote. It's important.
Please come and vote. We'll continue to give these presentations.
Oh, Mike says you should talk about how we can vote, how they can vote.
So there are opportunities. We have the district clerk here tonight, and she carries those mail-in ballots. So you can reach out to Yvette Siegel, our district clerk, YSEGAL @yorktown.org. Her information's on the website. She could provide you with information on the mail-in ballots, on obtaining an absentee ballot. If you're not registered to vote, she's the person to talk to register to vote. So Yvette Siegel is certainly the point of contact for all matters pertaining to the vote. So certainly if you're registered to vote in school district budget votes and trustee elections, you're registered to vote for this bond. It's not a separate registration to vote. But if you'd like information on registering to vote, mail-in ballots, absentee ballots, or any other questions about the vote, you should contact our district clerk, Yvette Siegel.
So I'm just going to ask Yvette a question. So Yvette, on the day of the vote, can somebody come in and register to vote? Answer in Lisa's thing.
They won't be able to vote that day, but they could be considered for another election.
Okay, but they can't, if they want to specifically vote on this date and they're not registered, they need to contact you before the
Yes,
election, not
yes.
on the day.
Yes.
Okay,
It's like a couple of days, 5 days before, 7 days before the actual bond vote.
Okay, I just want to be clear. I want people to understand
From
that. So
8 a.m. to 3 p.m. They could come contact me.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm good.
Thank you. Thanks, Jason. Appreciate you being
Thank you. You have more updates, correct, Ron?
Sorry?
Do you have more updates?
I do.
Okay.
I do. Just a few updates and not many. Number one, I just want to commend our science research teachers, especially Mr. Rubio. We hosted the Westchester Rockland Junior Science and Humanities Symposium here on Saturday. We had hundreds of students from all across the region come to our high school, and everything went off very well. We had a great showing. Our students performed very well. And just a proud day for our high school and our science research program to be able to host an event of that size and that magnitude. This Saturday, many members of our community saw the request for volunteers that I put out, and I will tell you this is an amazing community. At 10:15 I put out a request for volunteers, and by this afternoon I was turning people away because of the overwhelming response that we received, and that's just a testament to the amazing community that we have here in Yorktown. It's the Lego tournament. It's a first Lego League competition. We've been hosting it each of the last, I want to say 6 years. There was a small pause during COVID, but we've been hosting it, and it has grown, and this is our largest. This Saturday will be the largest event that we've hosted since we have been a host site. And it's a fun event, so if anyone wants to come out and see the competition, you're welcome to. It's here at the middle school. Things start about 8:30, 9 o'clock, and just a fun event here in our district and certainly across the region. We'll host teams from all over the county and even outside of the county. With regard to this Thursday, I have a very special group of people coming in to see me for breakfast. I have our senior citizen friends coming in from the community. If you happen to see this before Thursday and you haven't registered, you can call my office, 914-243-8001. Call, register, come on in. We'd love to have you in for breakfast. It's just an opportunity to give our senior citizens in the community an update on our schools, let them know what's happening within the building, really connect them to all the great things that happen on a day-to-day basis here. Finally, I had shared that we have we were going to provide some costs on modified sports, but we would really have the conversation in earnest during budget season. So I just wanted to follow up that conversation. I remember back in, I believe it was December 4th, that I shared that I would come up with some costs and provide that to you. So I have the costs, I'll share that information, and certainly during the budget development season, I will present the cost in more detail for the board to consider as we formulate a budget for the 24-25 school year. Speaking of the 24-25 school year, we have already begun the budget development process for members of our community who are interested in getting engaged in that process early. I encourage you to do so. Again, as always, we're going to have the budget information for 24-25 posted to our website. The first presentation is a basic overview of the budget. That'll be delivered in February. So the process is starting soon. It'll actually start at our next meeting. We'll begin that process, and we'll certainly welcome the community's engagement, participation in that process. And if you're not able to attend the meetings in person, they're posted to the website the following day, and all of the budget documents and presentations are posted to our website shortly after the board meeting. That is the update I wanted to share. Lots of really exciting and great things happened. We had a science talent search winner, top 300 winner, Eric Song. Congratulations to Eric. Some really, really great things happening in our school district. It's a very exciting time. So I just wanted to provide those updates. Again, I can continue on with the updates and share some of the great things, but I wanted to just highlight some of the events that we're most proud of.
Thank you. Okay. We're going to move on to board reports. We'll start with audit. Reshmi?
So the committee has a meeting scheduled for this Wednesday with our internal auditor to review a draft of the internal audit report for last school year. So I should know more or have another update in the next meeting.
Terrific. Thank you. Educational vision. Catalina couldn't be here tonight, but she did send me her report to read. So the committee met on 1/22/24. No, that's not the day we met. That's today's date. We met, last Thursday. We met, it was Catalina, Mike, me, Dr. Hatter, Ms. Ammerling, Ms. Chesser, Mr. Miller, and Ms. Rudick. Some items that were discussed, we had our attorney, David Shaw, on a phone conversation about the new AI artificial intelligence policy. We want to encourage, the school district wants to encourage and raise the level of discourse in the students. We also started discussing regents and final exam policies and reviewing how other districts weigh them. Our key highlights, the policy committee, we're going to ask the policy committee to review 5 policies regarding plagiarism and the code of conduct, And recommendations to the board, Catalina emailed Cheryl Reynolds, who's a policy chair, and reviewed the AI discussion and what policies we're asking to be reviewed by the policy committee. And then follow-up items, they're waiting to hear from the Yorktown High School Admin Committee on suggestions to the policy on regents, to our policy on the regents and final exams. And we'll review that at the next meeting. We don't have another meeting date. It was the 11th? Okay, we met on the 11th, sorry. Okay. Fiscal advisory, Mike?
So fiscal actually has our next meeting Friday morning, but I realized, I was just looking over my notes, we had a meeting on the 20th of December, which was 2 days after the last board meeting that we spoke about committees, so I haven't given a report even though it's a month ago. So we met on the 20th of December. Everyone was there, myself, Jackie, Peter, Dr. Hatter, Lisa Sanfilippo, Deirdre Ammerling, and Alicia Sigvartsen. We talked about transportation consultant study, the key drivers of the 24-25 budget, and we were working on the bond presentations that everybody sees here. Some of the key highlights, we discussed it's unlikely we'll be able to negotiate a new transportation agreement without going out for a bid or RFP in February. I'm sure we'll get an update on that Friday. We have a consultant that's reviewing bus runs, times, types of buses to determine efficiencies prior to the bid or RFP going out. Budget-to-budget revenue is projected to increase, but will likely not be enough to absorb the increases needed for health insurance, transportation, BOCES education, TRS, special education needs, and contractual settlements. So we've got quite a bit on our plate there. We're going to be probably having to discuss with the board when it comes to our transportation contract proposals, what type of ride times we're willing to accept for students. Right now, our longest is about 40 minutes. So at some point, we'll have to discuss whether we're willing to go longer than that in order to minimize or reduce our increase in costs on the contract. So those were the topics that we talked about. And again, we'll meet next meeting Friday, the 26th.
Thank you. Is Cheryl policy?
Sure. We've met since my last update. We met on December 7th and January 4th. I believe at the December 7th meeting we had full attendance. I believe at the 4th of January meeting, Dr. McGinnis was absent from that meeting. We discussed and reviewed 15 policies, 9 of which are on tonight's agenda. No major key highlights, but we do have some follow-up items we've talked about in the past, even at our board meetings, about the wellness policy. And we're at the point where before we start reviewing the policy, we have some information we'd like to gather via a survey. And actually, I will just let you say a few words, Dr. Hatter, about the timing and the contents of the survey and who our audience will be, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Of course. So as Ms. Reynolds mentioned, we are looking at the wellness policy. Part of that, before we make any changes of that scale to the wellness policy, we want to hear what the community has to say, because it impacts so many aspects of the educational experience, whether it's in-classroom celebrations, whether it's food used as rewards, whether it's the cafeteria menu and the contents that we offer, snacks and a la carte. So we are going to be sending out a survey. I anticipate the survey will go out early next week. We're in the final stages of review of the survey questions, and we'll send that out to the community. We'll have a modest turnaround time, probably a couple weeks to hear your input. It's not a very long survey, but it's an important one. So when you do receive the survey, we really ask that you take some time to share your very candid insights. There's a part where we'll ask information from your child about their favorite menu items or menu items that they wish we would change. And we really look forward to your honest feedback. One of the things we've been doing often is we have been surveying the community to hear what your thoughts are and what's important to you. And we look forward to hearing that perspective and incorporating that into our revised wellness policy during the next couple months. I would anticipate it would take.
Right, okay. And Dr. Hatter, that survey will be available to the community at large or just the school community?
Yes, we'll try to get that out as widely as we can, but the reality is I anticipate that it would only be families with children in the school district who would comment on it. There are elements to the survey that are specific to the food service that we offer here and the variety of options that are offered. So I do anticipate that, yes, while the survey will be as widely available as possible, posted to our website, my anticipation is that families with children in the school district would respond.
Right, makes sense. Okay, great, thank you. And our next meeting will be on February 1st.
Rashmi, did you have a question?
I'll wait till later.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Steering committee. So the steering committee met on January 4th. Our January 16th meeting was canceled due to snow. I think we had full committee membership at that point. Items we discussed the timing of the relamping of the field lights at the football field. We're changing those lights out to LED. So we're looking to put them in the spring. We decided not to there's an option to put color in, but that's like a $50,000 cost. We decided that we can do that at another time. We don't really have the money for it now. We talked about the timing of the track resurfacing, and that's going to take place in June prior to the graduation ceremony. They say that once the surface goes down, it dries very quickly and it shouldn't be harmed again. They don't want to wait till after the summer and when the turf goes in and have a problem getting the track in. The turf will be replaced starting right after school, but we won't start the work until we know that the turf basically on the truck on its way to us. It's already in production. So those are basically the key highlights. We don't have recommendations and our follow-ups, so we're just continuing to work on everything. And I think our next meeting date is a week from
30th?
a week from tomorrow? Okay, the 30th, okay. The next meeting is on the 30th. Okay, so we're up to board action items. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes for the December 18th and the January 8th meetings?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Can I have a motion to approve the treasurer's report for December 2023?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Can I have a motion to approve the claims audit report for December 2023?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Can I have a motion to approve the extra classroom report for December 2023?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And a motion to approve the Yorktown Central School District school calendar for the 24-25 school year.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Policy adoption. A motion to approve the second reading and adoption of the following policies: 1100 Public Information Program, 1130 News Media Relations, 1210 Advisory Committees, 1220 Relations with Community and Business Organizations, 1221 Relations with Parent Organizations, 1222 Relations with School-Related Organizations, 1330 Staff Participation in Political Activities, 4532 School Volunteers, and 9645 Disclosure of Wrongful Conduct.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Personnel. Upon recommendation of the superintendent, the motion that the following be approved. Under certified personnel, we have an appointment, we have other compensation, extra duty, addition to the substitute list, teaching stipends, unpaid leave of absences, and a resignation for the purpose of retirement. Under classified personnel, we have permanent appointments and additions to the substitute list.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Business office. A motion to establish a 23-24 per pupil rate of $1,676.75 for health and welfare services to non-resident pupils attending non-public schools within the Yorktown Central School District.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Health and welfare resolved upon recommendation of the superintendent, hereby authorizes the board president to execute contracts for health and welfare services provided to students who reside in other districts but are attending non-public schools in the Yorktown Central School District during the 23-24 school year.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A motion to approve the following Yorktown High School overnight excursion to the National High School Cheerleading Championship competition from February 9th to the 13th in Orlando.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A motion to approve the updated 23-24 transportation agreement with Red Carpet Coach Ltd. doing business as JTR Transportation due to a change in ownership.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Curriculum, a motion to approve the Yorktown Congress of Teachers and Certified Teaching Assistants, Teachers' Aides, Professional Improvement Plans for A and B as stated below.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Special education, a motion to arrange the following placements as of January 22nd, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have an independent evaluation service resolution. Do I need to read the whole resolution, Yvette? Can we just have a motion to pass the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, what it is it's just authorizing the district to pay for an occupational evaluation therapy for therapy evaluation for a student. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Gifts, grants, and donations. A motion to accept with gratitude the following gifts, grants, and donations: the Brookside Wolves of North American Assemblies from the Brookside PTA, Wolf Conservation Center 3rd grade excursion from the Brookside PTA, Fresh Air Fund for 3rd grade excursion for the Sharp Reservation from the Brookside PTA, $1,188 for the 1st grade excursion to the Hudson River Museum from the Brookside PTA. At the middle school, $2,500 for the 8th grade excursion to Playland from the middle school PTA, and $2,500 for the 7th grade excursion to the New York Museum of Natural History from the middle school PTA.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. I'm going to go to board comments. Lisa?
I'm good, thank you.
Cheryl?
Just a great big congratulations to the student who was here, a student of distinction, Matthew Yee. What an incredibly talented, young man, and really all the best to him. These students make us proud all the time. So, I thank BOCES for coming and presenting that, but it was really nice to hear.
Terrific. Rashmi?
I had a follow-up question on the wellness survey. I think it's great that we're taking a look at at that again, and I know we haven't quite looked at it in quite a few years, so that's great. My question is, so based on the survey, what are you thinking in terms of like where does it go from there? And maybe everything is not thought out. Obviously, it'll depend on the feedback in the survey, but I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I mean, the high-level plan is to incorporate the feedback that we receive from the survey to inform the policy, the wellness policy that we have as a district. There are certain positions that we take as a district within policy that whether they prohibit certain actions or require certain pieces. And I think what's important for us to do at this point, because it has been a while, is to hear what our community has to say and to see where they are on some of the aspects of the wellness policy, but also to make sure that the cafeteria offerings are meeting the interests and needs of their children. So I think the responses of the survey will inform that in terms of the development of the menu. I actually meet quite regularly with the food service supervisor and assistant director to plan out the menu and menu additions, new offerings, new options that we have, how we sample them. One of the things that we've actually tried now is there's a taste test day where we invite students to sample 7 different menu options that we're considering. They try it and we take that feedback. So any opportunity for us to collect input from the community is one that we'll take. And so it'll help us in a few aspects. It'll help us to inform and frame the policy on wellness, and it'll also help us to make some decisions on menu offerings that we provide in the schools.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot, in terms of even like allergies and intolerances that are become so mainstream now. It's not like a one-off thing anymore. But I'm glad that, we're starting that process.
We actually do have a question on the survey with regard to allergies and to better understand that and how the extent to which there are allergies in the schools. So we actually do have a question that tries to get to that point because, again, that informs the menu and that also informs classroom celebrations.
Yep.
It informs snack policies in classrooms.
Sure.
There's so much that we learn. So we do have a question on allergies.
Great, thank you.
Mike? I'm good. I just want to remind people as we get into January, February, March, all of our DCO presents the high school musical. So please come out and participate and view all of our very talented students. Anybody else? No? Can public comment of that? Nobody? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good night, everyone.
Good night.